Hi investigators, Casey Pine and Mike Evans back with episode 133 of Spy Curious, and today it's really exciting because we're going to be telling you all about what to say to your employer if they ask you for your tax records for a tender. See you soon. Hi Jamie, hi Renee, great to see you. Hi everybody else that's watching either this live program on Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Queensland time, or if you're watching the replay, like a lot of people do, later on in the week. G'day Callie, great to see you. Been a very busy day today. We've had our first Zoom meeting for our Industry Association Airlab. How did it go, Casey?
Oh, it was fantastic. We had a great turnout and Pat was very informative.
My word, he was. G'day, Andrew. Good to see you, buddy. So, people, we've got a very big program today. We're looking at a recent event that happened just this week. Now, this affects every licensed private investigator in Australia on its scale of incompetence. G'day, Jennifer. Great to see you. Hi, Evan. G'day, Chris. G'day, everybody. Thanks for signing. It's really great to have your support, people. It really is, honestly, fantastic, really motivating. So what we had this week was a couple of investigation agencies bidding for a tender for investigation work wrote to their investigators and said, and I quote, "We want for the purposes of this tender your tax record." End of quote. That would have to be the stupidest thing I've ever seen in the investigation industry in 32 years of being a licensed private investigator. They asked investigators to provide their tax record, which is an unknown quantity. We don't know whether it's their accountant's figures or whether it's an assessment from the tax office. We don't know whether it was for 10 years or 50 years or for 6 months. We don't know if it's up to this day on the 4th of March of this 3/4 of the way through this financial year. We haven't got a clue. All they said was tax record, which is very ambiguous and very vague. And nobody on planet Earth is going to put their hand up and go, oh, on the basis of all that information, which is extensive and not vague or ambiguous, here's all my tax records. It's got nothing to do with winning a tender. Nothing. And you don't even know that you're going to get any work out of it because it's a speculative tender. Now, would that tender be on the government tender site, or was it just one that was a private invite for 2 or 3 investigation agencies? Well, I'm sorry, whoever issued the tender, no one's handing over their tax records. Do you know what the problem is, apart from privacy issues? If you give your tax records to a workplace, that workplace is sold 6 months later, 12 months later, 2 years later, a new owner comes in and goes, oh, what's all these tax records? Oh, these people don't work for me anymore. This one does, this one doesn't. They don't work for my competitors. I've got all this great information that I can use anti-competitively against my competitors. Oh, no, it doesn't work like that. If you win a tender for a government program, a government tender or a corporate tender, the intention of the tender is not to get confidential information out of you and keep that on record to be used against you forever and a day. Immediately following a pandemic lockdown where issues affecting that over that 2-year period affected your tax and your ability to pay it back. And the taxation office, even the taxation office, has given businesses a 2-year reprieve and not gone on its blitz, which won't start till after the next election in the middle of this year. Then it's going to get serious, okay? All right, if you're behind in your tax then, they're going to send in collection services after you. So think about who you're voting for, right? Because they want their money back from the pandemic. And now we've got investigation agencies kowtowing to potential clients that they will provide tax records. Bullshit. That's not going to happen. So do not supply your tax records to anybody for a tender. They haven't won it. That's not going to happen. It's not fair. You can't ask for it. If they can go and find someone else to work for them. So let's have a look at what you can ask for from an investigator. Sorry, that was the tax office. I'm sorry, that's just joking, guys. Everybody relax. Okay, God. All right, so what can you ask for when you have a tender, and what do you as the investigator have to supply when a tender is asked? Let's have a look. Here's what they can ask you for. They can ask you for an up-to-date resume. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, on your resume, it'll say you're a licensed private investigator. You also breed budgerigars as a sideline. Who cares? It's in your resume. It's non-confidential. Certified copies of your qualifications. Now, if you're a working private investigator, you're going to have your Certificate 3 in Investigative Services, Certificate 4 in Government Investigation. You'll be studying some other program along the way, another Certificate 4 or a diploma. You would be studying programs for your continuous professional development, like 15 people did today at AirLap. And today they learnt about telephone interviewing, and that certificate statement of attendance and completion of this continuous professional development will be there. That's a qualification. Okay, it's not a nationally recognised qualification, but it's better than someone that hasn't done it and hasn't answered any questions afterwards in relation to it. Industry association memberships. You're a member of the Academy of Investigation, Risk and Loss Adjusting Professionals. Okay, you have a badge electronically that says that. Those of you that have been doing your CPD, you actually have a certificate that says you're a member or an associate member or a life member or whatever it is, wherever you are in the history of the 9-year history of that organisation. State investigation licence details. You might be licensed in Queensland and in New South Wales, or you might be licensed in Tasmania. Doesn't matter. That's what you can put in a tender. Give them a copy of the licence. Okay. Here's one I prepared earlier. So this is a copy of my process serving licence from back in 1995. Had a query last week, poor young lady, she was sucked into a investigation course where they don't have process serving in it, and they reckon they're approved for every state and territory in Australia, which is a lie. And she was from Tasmania, and she asked me about process serving down there, and I had to check it out. And years ago, back in 1996, you had a separate licence. Today, it's just the same licence with the same qualification. That's what it looked like years ago. Pretty scary. So you put scary photos in your tender information pack. Your driver's licence. Now, that's very important. You haven't got a driver's licence and you're saying you've got a driver's licence. I'm sorry, people. That's never going to happen. Thanks, Renee. I thought it was a great photo too. Yeah. You might have to put in your driving history. Now, your driving history is very important if you're working for Suncorp Metway in their general insurance, or you're working for the Transport Accident Commission of Victoria, or the Motor Accidents Insurance Board of Tasmania. They want to know that you're compliant with the road laws. Now, if you aren't, and you've been speeding and been doing all sorts of terrible things with your driving history, they're not going to accept you on your tender panel because you don't respect what you're investigating. That's like an investigation agency that goes around committing fraud and holding itself out to be the most honourable investigation agency in the world. People aren't going to believe that. And they're not going to believe that you can go and work for the TAC or the MAIB if your driving history is as colourful as mine. So they will want your criminal history, sometimes, not all the time. They want to know your vehicles are insured and possibly public liability insurance. Some people will ask for professional indemnity insurance. They can ask for it. Good luck getting it, but they can ask for it. That's what they can ask you for in a tender. Now, a tender doesn't mean anyone's guaranteed to win it. It just means you supply the information to the corporation that's offering that $3 million worth of work or $10 million worth of work or whatever worth of work it is. And nothing is worth giving up your tax records for. Here's what they can't ask you. Tax records, number one. So if they're bidding for a tender, they cannot ask for that. Nope, don't give it to them. Not at all. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, try and keep your colourful history quiet when you're a surveyor. It's not very hard. That's what that means. So, tax records you don't give. You don't give your USI out to anyone. Right? You can print out your USI and give it to an employer in a job application if they ask for it, but it's of no relevance until they ask for it, and you don't need it for a tender. Right? Certified copies of your qualification. They can't ask you for past investigation licence details. What's relevant about a licence you held in another state 6 years ago? And then you went and worked for the government for 3 months and now you're licensed in this state over here. They can't ask you for copies of your health records, whether you were born male or female, who you vote for, your sexual orientation. Oh, mate, are you bent, bi or straight? They can't ask you that. Right? We need to put it into tender. Tick one of these boxes. I'm bent. I'm bi. I'm straight. Tick here. No, not going to happen, just like your tax records. If you've got a physical or mental disability, that ain't going into the tender. And if you're Catholic, if you're Muslim, if you're Church of England, if you're whatever, they can't ask you that either. So it's not going to fly when they ask you for tax record. Do not give it to them. That's very important. If they ask for it and insist on it, say, Mike Evans said to tell you to get stuffed. Say it nicely, all right? Don't give your tax records to anyone for a tender. Okay? That's it. So I'm over that one now. In the news this week, murderer accused Greg Lynn has sued Jetstar, his employer, for unfair dismissal because they decided that when he was arrested and charged with the murder of Carol Clay and Russell Hill, they decided to sack him from Jetstar. Now, idiot reckons that's unfair. Now, of course, it wasn't really fair that he got to kill these two people and his first wife, but different rules apply to him than apply to everybody else. So that's happened in the news this week, and there's going to be some investigator who has to go out and investigate that matter. What was unfair about it? They've got to go and interview the HR manager at Jetstar and say, well, how did you arrive at this decision and when did you decide to do that, blah, blah, blah. What's the big issue with it? Reputational risk is the big issue. You've got a guy here that's murdered 3 people. Jetstar don't want to be paying him superannuation, weekly wage, holidays and all that while they're waiting on the outcome of a court case. They want that gone, erased from their memory. So that's happened in the news this week. Previously today, we had our AirLap monthly meeting where you could get CPD points. Here's the answer to the CPD question that you were asked to supply. So you can email this answer through to me, people. If you miss it today and I take it down too fast for you, you can watch the replay later, or you can jump over on YouTube and watch the replay over on YouTube. So there's the answers. You know that they are 14 minutes into this presentation, so you can skip forward or you can just watch all my funny jokes again, which Who wouldn't want to do that? So there's the answers to those questions. It's all right, I've got to stop in a minute. Casey's going to be on. Also in the news this week, down in Victoria, the police have discovered a man lying on the road, and they don't know why he's lying on the road. He's dead, and they're investigating that. And this is going to be a Transport Accident Commission, CTP, investigation, so compulsory third-party investigation, and they've got a man who's sustained life-threatening injuries. I said he was dead, so here it says life-threatening injuries. I don't know if he's died or not. But an investigator is going to have to go out and investigate this. Now, the police have no idea why he's lying on the road, if he was hit by a bus or a car or a truck or a tram or a horse-drawn cart. And an investigator is going to have to go out and do that. So that's going to be an interesting investigation down in Victoria. I know where you live, mate. I really do. So that's interesting one. And how do they do that? What do they do? Basically, CTP investigations, if you don't know the vehicle registration and the licence of the driver that hit you, it falls under the nominal defendant. So every state and territory has a nominal defendant who you sue as the injured party when it's not known who did the damage to the injured person. So that's a fallback we all have in case that does happen. As an investigator, you're going to get a lot of these. They happen at night. The person's always wearing dark clothing, and someone walking by discovers them injured on the side of the road the next day or the next morning, or dead on the side of the road the next day or the next morning, and you don't know who the driver of the offending vehicle. So nominal defendant is the organisation that's insured there that falls into it, and that's who we represent when we do that investigation. We're coming to Casey in a minute. I've just got to get a few jobs out of the way. So Procare, looking for factual investigators in Melbourne. SureFact are looking for factual investigators down in Melbourne. So that's two great opportunities. Clarity Workplace Investigations are looking for factual investigators down in Melbourne. They do whistleblowing investigations apart from WorkCover investigations as well. So that's down in Victoria. Lewis Wanstall Associates, they're looking for a factual investigator down in Melbourne. So if you're in Victoria, you're a licensed investigator, get in touch with them. So you've just done airlaps telephone interviewing CPD and your license, you can do work for all these people. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you don't want to work in Melbourne, jump up to Brisbane, where G. Hughes and Associates, they want you to work for them up there. This is Mike Evans's Job of the Week. This is where I would like to work. Very high standard of work. Very good reports they do, really relevant, non-waffling, non-repetitive reports. They are just so focused. So that's a great one. Up in Brisbane in Queensland. So there's a few more jobs to come, but Casey's coming today with some news of what's happening in Casey's world.
Well, this is a little bit self-indulgent today because I've had a very hectic week after catching up after being sick last week. So today I thought I would talk about, because this is something that people, when I do talk about it, tend to show interest in. And I thought I'd let you know. So there is the global search party Capture the Flag. Trace Labs have announced that the next one will be the 26th, 27th of March, which is fantastic. That gives us heaps of time to prepare. And one of the amazing things is that this time it's a daytime one for us. We don't have to get up at 2 a.m. and struggle through it. And for those who have never heard me speak about this before, Trace Labs holds a missing persons competition, so to speak. They hold it 4 times a year, and you get to put your OSINT skills to the test. You sign up, get a ticket, and then everybody comes together on that in that specific time, and you get to look for real life missing people. So these are proper missing persons cases from around the world. They work with law enforcement from all different countries to see if people can use their OSINT skills and help find these people. And it's just amazing and so exciting to watch. So as it says here, the tickets haven't gone on sale yet. I will definitely let you know. And a lot of people ask me how to kind of get started with OSINT or open source intelligence. And there are a heap of free resources online when it comes to OSINT. And I always suggest, not that the CTF is free with Trace Labs. I think it's like $25 for a ticket. It's just to help them pay for their platform, because it's really sophisticated and it's really fantastic. It's really easy to use. So, but free resources to help you learn about open source intelligence one is the SANS Institute, and I love their blog. And if you see down the left-hand side here, there's the focus areas, and you can just click on open source intelligence and it'll bring up all of their blogs in regards to that. There's also an open source intelligence summit coming up in April that SANS are holding, and that is free. So I highly recommend that you sign up to that. SANS are fantastic. They help open source intelligence practitioners and investigators and people all around the world to help them upskill. And then there is also Bellingcat, which is another fantastic resource. So if you go to their guides, again, you can see down the left-hand side, there is specific OSINT tags that you can click on. There's a lot of kind of military or more stuff there that doesn't apply to someone necessarily doing open source intelligence. But as you can see, you can click the open source intelligence and it'll bring up all their different guides to looking for people on the dark web, setting up sock puppets, things like that. And Mike and I were actually just talking before the show, saying that it would be great to put together an Australian Security Academy alumni team for this to enter into the Trace Labs CTF. So if you're interested in being on a team, make sure you email me. It's casey@australiansecurityacademy.edu.au. And let me know. You don't need any OSINT experience, it's fine, but this is the best way to get it. I learn something new every time I take part in one of these. You feel good afterwards because it's for a good cause. You're genuinely helping families get some closure around some missing people. And it's just a fantastic community and a great way to hone in on your skills.
Fantastic, Case. That is a magnificent offer. How many do we need to have a team?
It's 4 per team, but if we get more, we can have more than one team. It's totally fine. So we can enter as many teams as we want.
Okay, how long have we got?
So the tickets aren't on sale yet. I will definitely let everybody know as soon as they come on sale. We'll make sure that we put it out through the Australian Security Facebook and talk about it on here as well. But they're looking at doing it on the 26th, 27th of March. So we've got a little bit of time to prepare, look into things, and for you guys to contact me to let me know if you care to join.
Okay, we've got interest already, and we'll be reminding people about that as we go. We've got a couple of weeks left. Yep. You've got a lot on between now and then.
I do.
People, that's great. So what it is, it's an amazing opportunity to have a focused, if you like, locate, witness type experience for benefit and for real. So this doesn't come up all the time. It's you learn something new every time you do it, and really worthwhile if you'd like to get involved. How much time would they spend on the day that they're involved with it, Casey? Sorry.
It's usually between 6 and 8 hours. So you are absolutely exhausted afterwards because you are putting every single one of your investigator skills to use that day and transferring it to online. Not only are you doing report writing, but you're looking up different things and, try and making sure you don't go down different rabbit holes, because when people go missing, there are always conspiracy theories. It doesn't matter if it was Bob next door who didn't know anyone. Someone's going to start something online, and you have to learn how to discern from those types of things. It's quite exhausting, but Fantastic.
Okay. And you'll get a statement of participation in that from Trace Labs?
You sure do.
So,
So you
so
get a badge.
okay, so you get a badge and do you get a written acknowledgement?
It's the same kind of badge that we give our AirLab members. So it'll say that you were in the Trace Labs missing people search for whatever date that they have it, just as an acknowledgement that you were part of it, took part. And yeah, and there's different judges. So you have to submit your information to judges, and it has to be, as you know, if you've done your course with the Australian Security Academy, report writing is really important. So you have to clearly communicate exactly where you got the information from. And yeah, I'm excited.
All right. Well, with our exciting new Podia website, we might be able to put up a little article about that people can point to employers and show their participation as well. So great, Casey. We'll get a reminder towards the end, just how to contact you. So if you wouldn't mind, that would be great. People, we today had our AirLab meeting, and I had to explain a process to the participants in it. When we do telephone interviews, it's no less an interview. We have to get a lot of detail. And when you're trying to get a witness to understand what you're doing, they saw an event that if it was an accident, it lasted 3 seconds. And it's really important that you're taking them back to that place and getting them to explain what happened, the build up and the aftermath. So let's have a look at a little video how you do that. If I said, today I made a cup of coffee, we can't accept that as investigators. Let's have a look at what we've got to go through. Okay, so I said I've made a cup of coffee. There's a cup of coffee. We can't accept that as an investigator because if it's relevant, we want details. So we've got to find out. They went to the cupboard. They picked out a coffee cup out of the cupboard. There's your choices of coffee cups. Well done, people. That's really good to see. And thanks for mentioning, Chris. Then they went over to the bench where there was the coffee plunger previously set up. And they got their bushels 44 Nescafe and they put that into the plunger coffee. They didn't just make a cup of coffee. They went through a whole process and they put 2 tablespoons of coffee into the plunger. Then they boiled the jug and they got to describe this process that they did. So they didn't just make a cup of coffee. They went to the cupboard. They got the cup. They put the coffee in the plunger. They boiled the kettle. They poured the boiling water into the receptacle, whether that was the plunger or straight into the cup with instant coffee. It doesn't matter. We need this level of detail. Then they got the plunger and they pushed it down slowly so it wouldn't spill everywhere. You're the investigator. You're responsible for getting all of this detail into this statement. So they've now taken the coffee and then they've poured that into the cup, which is offensive to all the people that like to put the milk in first, but there they go. So then they went over to the cupboard. Sorry about the mop. We had a bit of a spill this morning on a leaky water filter device. So they got the sweetener and they put the sweetener in the coffee. How many lumps? 5. And they put that in their coffee. This is the detail we want. Put the sweetener back. Then they went to the refrigerator and they got the milk out, and it was a 2-litre plastic carton of organic full cream milk from Mulaney, like you do, and they poured that. It's your type of sweetener, I know. They poured that into the coffee mug, and that's how they made a cup of coffee. Amazing demonstration, that one, wasn't it, Casey? I think that's really worth some balloons. Saw some balloons. So for that amazing demonstration, that is the level of detail you've got to get out of people. Why is that? Because we're investigators. That's what we're paid to do. If you need to explain a process to a person you're interviewing, forget the whiskey, right? Just say to them, look, I understand we're here about a motor vehicle accident. Thanks, Renee, for your support. I'm a pretty good teacher, really. I'll go for Teacher of the Year against Pat Flynn. I'm going to knock him off this year. He's won it for the last 18 years. I'll get you, Pat. So you explain to the person, we need a real level of detail. Imagine you making a cup of coffee in the morning, going to the cupboard, getting the cup, taking the cup. Yeah, I'm coming to common law later. You're jumping 40 episodes ahead, please. I know where you live. He lives in Kangaroo Valley. Anyway, so that person, you're giving them the understanding, the level of detail, it's something they're familiar with. It's a cup of coffee making. Now, what they saw was two cars on the same, heading towards each other, one on the wrong side of the road. And we've got to get that level of detail about which car was where, just like we would in a simple explanation of how we need it. So you say to the person, if I asked you to describe making a cup of coffee and you went to the cupboard and you went to the fridge and you put the milk in and you made it with a plunger or whatever you did, you'd be able to do that, wouldn't you? And they'd say, yes, well, can you give me that level of detail in relation to this person falling from this height that you saw? Or this person that slipped, tripped and fell. How did they fall? Forwards? What did they land on? Left side, right side? That's what we're looking for. Now, don't tell the members of AirLap I showed that video to you because I didn't show it to them. All right. Just trying to look after our people on Spy Curious. So that's the level of detail and why that was important. Suncorp have advertised for an events manager. Now, Suncorp have got their head up their backside and they've advertised for an events claims manager at Suncorp in Melbourne, and they've said that you have to have an ANZIF diploma of loss adjusting to get that job, which is bullshit. There is no such thing as an ANZIF diploma of loss adjusting. There is only FNS 51420 diploma of loss adjusting. And congratulations to all our people that started studying that this week. Really great to see you in there and hope you enjoy that, but don't go and work for Suncorp Netway. They're out of touch and don't know what's going on. Might as well be asking for your tax records intended. Mike Evans' personal opinion, that was. AIPI, we covered with mutual recognition last week. Just one thing I explained to people today at the AirLap meeting was South Australia have approved mutual recognition. That means you can apply for a temporary permission to go on into South Australia and do a quick investigation, take a couple of statements, do surveillance, whatever, and you'll get permission to them and it's free. Northern Territory brought it in, I was told today in our AirLap meeting, so it's coming in Northern Territory as well. It's not unusual, they don't all do it together, right? So New South Wales will probably come on board in July, who knows? Queensland won't, they're being dicks about it. Victoria might come on board in December, who knows? But it's coming. And in Victoria, forever and a day anyway, you could always get a temporary permit. So Victoria, believe it or not, the LRD were way ahead of their time. So that's really important that you understand it's not available everywhere. Nationally,
We got you, Mike. You froze for a sec.
That one. Busy group down in Melbourne is still looking for that authorised officer. That's a great job with trainees and apprentices. So excellent role down there. There's been a couple of Intel analyst positions vacant advertised. I haven't put them up on our Facebook page because there's just thousands of them, but they're out there at the moment. So if you're an investigator, they're really great. Don't go past this one if you're in Queensland. Brisbane City Council are after investigators. What we've noticed this week, our intelligence on local councils, what the feedback we've been getting is there's been a large transfer of people in management positions out of local councils. And it sort of left rangers without support people in their council offices. So you're seeing a lot of ranger positions vacant in Queensland and New South Wales. So due to the pandemic or whatever, people high up in local government have been moving around. And it's sort of left a little bit of a vacuum at the pointy end, leaving one or two people to do all the local laws with the barking dogs and the trucks and all that sort of thing. So if you've got a certificate for in government investigation, people, randomly contact your local government authority. You might just be pleasantly surprised about what opportunities are there at the moment. Lewis Onstall done that. If you're looking at any jobs, if you're looking for jobs, here they are on our Facebook page. Just Google on Facebook, Australian Private Investigator, Corporate and Government Investigation jobs. That's where you'll find all these jobs and a whole lot more. I don't put them all up, but basically they're all there for you to see. So really great opportunity there to see a range of different positions. If you've missed it, you saw a job you like, that you can watch the replay after this is finished. If you're watching the replay, you can still watch the replay of the replay on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or you can jump over to... It sounds like surveillance investigators doing surveillance on other surveillance investigators, doesn't it? And that happens. So you can jump over to our YouTube channel, which I haven't kept a copy of, to see anything on the replay as far as those jobs are concerned. But without replay, he's Casey to mention what she talked about before and your opportunity to join her and her contact details. What was the opportunity? What are your contact details, Casey?
Yep, so if you'd like to join me to compete in the Trace Labs Missing Persons Capture the Flag competition later on this month, about the 26th or 27th of March, you can contact me at Casey, that's CASEY, at australiansecurityacademy.edu.au. Or, of course, you can email Mike and he'll pass it on to me because I know most of you have his email address. So if you're interested, definitely send me an email. It would be fantastic to see an Australian Security Academy team put together. So...
Just lost your sound there, Case.
Oh, am I there still?
Yeah, you come back. So if you want to, it's really rewarding. Yes, it is a full day work that you've got to be fully committed to, but my word, you're going to learn some valuable techniques and you are going to hear and see what other people are doing. And if you've got an 11-year-old, 12-year-old handy around the house, you might get some help from them too, because they're real wizards at IT stuff. So keep that in mind. Also this week, this happened this week, a lady was found guilty of fraud. She funneled $250,000 out of a cancer treatment centre where she was a worker there. So she's been sentenced to 30 months imprisonment. So that's what's happened to her as a result of that fraud. Now, what she was doing, she was putting it in relatives' bank accounts, transferring it to them, giving them money, and she was spending a bit on herself. But she had a husband with a gambling problem. So she didn't have a problem with gambling, but he did. So anyway, she gets a recorded interview with the police and she denies all this. And her husband is now an ex-husband. So the police went to the ex-husband and he showed them on his mobile phone a whole bunch of texts from her about how she was funneling that money fraudulently into his account to help him out with his gambling. And he coughed that up. And that's resulted in her spending 30 months in prison to support his gambling habit. Oh, dear. Justice is an ass. But anyway, she stole it. So that happened in New South Wales this week. So you'll be investigating that sort of thing. Why do you get those sorts of things? Because the police are very busy. The police are very busy with domestic violence, with terrorism, with all sorts of protests that are going on at the moment. It's now relied on for organisations to have their own risk management, engage their own investigators to get a hand-up brief to the police who will then go and charge the person. But they're really not interested in frauds. They're not. They're too busy. So that's where a lot of your investigation work moving into the future is going to come from. And as you're studying the Australian Security Academy at the moment, you're referred constantly to our time and event line presentation, where you go and speak to the ex-person and you find out that type of information. So people, that's episode 133 of Spy Curious with Casey Pine and Mike Evans. We've finished for this week, so as always, we go out the same old way.
그림자를 잡았습니다. 작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
That's our mission complete with our balloons. All units return to the base. Casey and I are very tired. We've had a very big day and a very big week planning it all. Thanks for your support this week, putting that together when you weren't well, Casey. We'll see you again next week, people. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. Thank you for your support.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks for everything. It was really encouraging today to have over 24 people engaged in the 2 programs we did for our life learning programs, which we're required to do for the Victoria Police Licensing Regulation Division. We'll see you next week for episode 134. Look forward to it. Bye, Casey.
Right. See you next week.